The session theme today is Rise of the Global South. And you've been very vociferously speaking about it, particularly in the last 2 years. We've seen Global South being used repeatedly over the last many decades, 1955 onwards perhaps. But what has changed really? And you know, in my hands is this book that you've just released, Why Bharat Matters. And perhaps you should get this copy very soon. This was a hot topic discussed recently at the Raisina Dialogue as well. Why Bharat matters? Why is it important? And has India not only positioned itself, but just like Tony Abbott mentioned earlier this morning, that India is leading indeed the Global South?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I think the sofa is a bit outsized for me, but it's okay. I'll try and fill the space. Two questions. One, why the Global South? And secondly, why Bharat matters? Why the Global South? What has been happening in the last few years is at one level, you know, the world's changing. The more dominant powers are less dominant today. And as part of that change, many countries who would broadly qualify to be in the Global South, India is one, Indonesia is one, you have, you know, other parts of ASEAN, some of the big countries in Africa, Latin, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. So these countries today count for more, they assert themselves more, and they want a share in the conversation. So it's like a company, you know, there are more shareholders, but the management needs to recognize that there are more shareholders. So that's one. The second is actually the traumas of the last few years. You know, you had this devastating thing called COVID. You know, many of us have come through it. But as someone who travels very extensively, I've been to places which haven't come through it, you know, where the damage, you know, to governance, the damage to the societal fabric, they've taken such a body blow that they're still kind of reeling from that. On top of that, the ups and downs of the global economy, they saw, okay, global inflation has gone up, debt has gone up, trade has been disrupted. Then you had the Ukraine conflict, okay? And the Ukraine conflict had very strong second-order effects, energy prices, food prices, fertilizer prices. Now you're seeing the Middle East, you know, and again the trade disruptions, the possibility. So what is happening is a lot of these countries feel, look, we are the people who are really suffering. But when there are big global meets, it's like they're you know, we don't count. They are discussing a different world out there. So there's enormous sort of, I would say, actually use the word anger today in a lot of these countries. So when we were preparing for the G20, I heard personally, and so did the Prime Minister, from many countries who said, look, you know, we expect you. You are India, you understand our pain, you've been there. I mean, because, you know, as former colonies, there's a certain bonding which comes from that. So we expect you to speak up for us. Now, we could have, you know, just stood there and said, okay, you know, we heard from people, but Prime Minister felt, let's actually gather everybody together and hear them out, and then kind of distill the essence of that, and then put it before the G20, and urge the G20 saying, look, we speak here, when we did our Global South Summit, we had 125 countries there. So when we spoke to the to the G20, we were not only speaking on behalf of India, the most populous country in the world, fifth largest economy, but we also had 125 countries who said, you know,